Hello. Welcome to week 6. Looks like we've got Cedar. Good afternoon. Hopefully we have others going to be joining us soon. Hello, Andrea. Go ahead when you jump on. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Mindy. When you jump on, go ahead and open the chat and make sure that you've got your chat to all panelists and attendees, and say hello so we can know who's here. All right. Great. Okay, well, let's get going. Let's get started with those of you who are here. How did your 2 weeks go where you had a break to implement some things? How did your daily dues get introduced to your family? How, give me just a little bit of a pulse check on how things are going. Did you like having a week off to implement things? Did you like, or was it frustrating that you were ready for more, or did you like the break? Tell me what you thought. I'm just giving you a second to reply in the chat box. 2 weeks was good for that much info. Oh, good. Just starting daily dues today. Family council was yesterday. Loved the break to catch up. Okay, good. Now, I'm just giving you a heads up that this week and next week, these are our last 2 mentoring sessions. But I do want to let you know that our group will still be live in our Wholehearted Beta group for the month of, through a few more weeks afterwards, for about 30 days after the official group end, okay, the official end to the mentoring sessions. And I want you to know that, so that you know that you're still going to have a little bit of support, and not a little bit, but a lot of support and access to each other and to the content, to the group where you can ask questions, to encouragement posts and things like that that'll help you problem solve as you continue to implement the pieces that you haven't quite gotten to yet. And it's totally okay if I'm giving you lots of system tools here at the end, okay, of the end of this program. I told you back in the beginning it was gonna start where there was a lot of heavy, it was really heavy on the mindset and the vision and laying those foundations at the beginning, and then we worked on habits, and then the end of the program was really putting the system into place. So this is a lot of how-tos here at the end, which give you a lot of steps to take that are actual tangible steps to put into place. And I don't want you to be discouraged by that. I want you to be encouraged by it. You've laid yourself a good foundation no matter where you are in the program, whether you're still on week 2 or 3 or 1, you still have all of the steps laid out in front of you, and you can still move through them at your own pace. And you will still have access to the group for several weeks afterwards, so that you can move through those steps confidently and know that you have the support and the backing from all of us that are here still moving through the program right along with you, okay? Several people have asked on the Facebook group about whether they'll still have access to everything after the program ends. Well, one, you've been given all of the materials by email, so you have the ability to download those and save them on your computer for your own personal use. So you should have access to all the materials. When it comes to the recording links, if I were you, I would save the link somewhere, whether you bookmark them, or maybe create a spreadsheet that has the individual weeks that you can copy and paste them onto. The reason I'm telling you that is because you'll have access to the links. They're not going to go anywhere. They're uploaded links to YouTube, and it's on a private account, so they're only you guys that have the links to them. And you're welcome to access them anytime to review or to catch up if you have ones that you need to still take the time to watch. But what will go away is after the 30 days after the program, this Facebook group will be dissolved. And I haven't decided quite yet if I'll do a specific Wholehearted Home like alumni group that can be ongoing support and questions, or if I'll just incorporate that into our regular Simply Inspired Solutions group that you guys all are part of also. So I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that. I put a question on this week's survey about that, about what you think it would be most helpful. And so I'll look and see what you guys think, and we'll make a decision from there. But the reason I'm telling you that you need to save the links is because they are currently just posted in the group, and when the group goes away, you won't be able to find the links again if you haven't saved them somewhere else. So my suggestion would be that you either bookmark them or create a spreadsheet or a document of some kind that has just the links on them that you can click on them anytime you want. And I know I've asked you guys this before, and I trust you all, but I want you to please remember that these materials are for your own personal use. And if you have friends or family that you think this program would serve and work for, and you would love for them to be a part of it too, please refer them to our Simply Inspired Solutions group and or to me directly, and I can make sure that they know about when the next program starts. But please keep the materials that you've been given for your own personal use. Okay, well, let's get going to this week. For this week, we're in module 6. We're on week 7, but this is the 6th module, and there is only 7 modules, even though we've got 8 weeks. And so I don't want anyone to be confused that there's, when it says week 7, that there's a missing week. It's not. It's week 7, but we had a bye week, so we skipped a week, and it's module 6. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hang on a second. Okay, can you guys see that? All is good. Okay, I'm gonna make this bigger here really quick. Okay. All right, I want to go ahead and skip straight on to our new intention. This is the last piece of our intention that we have, that I'm introducing this week. And I wanted to go ahead and kind of break it down with you a little bit and just kind of explain what the last piece of the intention is. Remember, these intentions are what we keep these intentions in mind. I would highly suggest that when the new piece comes out, like this piece, you print this page, a second version of this page, so you can cut it out and add it to your sacred space, okay? Because I want you to read these intentions. There's 3 pieces. The 2 original pieces are up here already, just to review, and this is the last piece of it. But these intentions are what help you stay focused on why you're doing what you're doing. You're wanting these results, and this is what you keep in mind as you put into place the pieces and take this very intentional action. It gives you that guide, that purpose, the direction, and really keeps you focused on what your end result is. So this week, my family learns accountability and respect by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. So you're not only going to be modeling this, but you are also keeping that intention open for your family to be able to have permission to do that also. With all these changes that you're going through and that you're experiencing, all these habits that you are putting time and effort into, your kids are now just being introduced into going through that same process. Think about the last 4 to 5 weeks that you've been through and all that, the opposition that came up and all the self-doubt and all of the gremlins and things like that that have come up and gotten in your way, and you've had to push through. And think of that support that you can offer to your children now that you've been through that experience, and you're not only can you model it, but you can support them and be there for them as they take those same kinds of steps. Together, you'll know joy because you're going to practice gratitude and celebrate successes. You're going to teach your family to live, laugh, and love. And I know that sounds like a plaque cliche or something, but what you're going to keep that is in the forefront of your mind. You're going to keep that in the forefront of your mind because this is not all about work. It's not all about perfection or an end result or anything like that. It's about these relationships. It's about these experiences. It's about the memories. It's about the support. It's about the connection. It's about the fun. It's all about that wholehearted living. That's why we call this the wholehearted home, because the point is that everybody is all in, they're committed, they see the vision, they love their family, they're willing to work together. This is the point, okay? The point is that goal. It's not about a clean house. It's not about, and I want to reiterate that, especially now that we're starting to work on the actual get your family to do things. I don't want anybody to revert back and forget that the point of this is to have a wholehearted home, not to have a Pinterest-worthy house to photograph at any moment in time. That's not the goal. Okay, so keep that high in your intention. You'll always have permission to be yourselves with each other, no matter what. I do not teach, love, or show anything perfectly, but I will always show up, let myself be seen, and do my best to see others truly, deeply. So you are going to be modeling and keeping that in the forefront and in the front of your mind to see, to model that perfection is not the goal. Just like I was just saying, that you're not expecting that of your children. You are encouraging them and helping support and lead them into growing into being responsible adults and important members of your family and society and all the other things that we want our kids to grow up to be, right? So I would, like I said, recommend printing this out and cutting it out and putting it up in your sacred space to keep this in the forefront of your mind. I'm going to kind of refer back to it as we move on, but we only have one new guiding principle this week. We're down to the end, and I think there may be one or two. I may pull out one or two more for next week, but we're getting down to where we've almost got a clear list of guiding principles. This week's guiding principle is the natural consequences, not punishment. And I'm excited to get to that point in our mentoring session today because it's huge. It's a huge paradigm shift, and it is something that is one of those key pieces that is going to show tons of transformation in your home, and so much peace comes from this one principle being adhered to. We have all of our guiding principles here listed. And once we get these all finished and you've got the full list, I would recommend printing them out or making them smaller if you want. You don't have to make it be a whole page. Don't want to get your command station really messy, but I would put it up under your guiding principles and right up next to your motto to help you remember and help you stay focused on as you move forward and you problem solve and you keep continuing to customize how you work together as a family. These are principles that if you keep them and the foundation, you'll know if the principles don't contradict, if the actions you take don't contradict these principles, then you know you're on the right path, and you know that what the choices that you're making or how you're problem solving a certain situation will not mess any of your system up. It'll go right along, it'll integrate seamlessly, and you'll feel really confident in knowing how to make decisions when you have problems come up or things that come up in your process of how you're taking care of your home. Does that make sense? You guys understanding? You guys with me? Okay. All right. So real quick, our mindset's not going to take much time at all today. I kind of already mentioned this already even today. Your kids and your family that are starting these new habits, and you're trying to help formulate these new habits and this new way of thinking, they're going to be going through a lot of the things that, oh, actually, I don't know if I want to say this right here. Oh, well, they're going to be going through a lot of the same things that you are. But you are, I actually jumped ahead. Start over. The mindset practice. Okay, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought and I skipped ahead to something else. So let me start over. The mindset practice right now. It's going to be real quick. I just want you to not, I want to point out that it is if you are feeling overwhelmed, a new kind of overwhelm where it's the kind of overwhelm that comes from when you're feeling like you're now involving more people. It's not just about you, right? You're involving your whole family. So that is a whole new level of responsibility. So it's like what you were kind of overwhelmed with just with yourself and just kind of working through, now you've doubled or tripled it because you've now involved your kids, your family, and it can feel overwhelming. I just want you to remember that this stage right here is a tipping point, okay? You could react to the overwhelm by being discouraged or allowing gremlins to attack you, and you could slip backwards, or you can just be really proactive and aggressive about going on the offense and using every tool that you have to keep moving forward. I gave you a couple things to remember. I know you're probably so sick of hearing this 1% thing, but it's so vital to keep that in mind. You didn't form all the current habits you have in just a week or two, or even in 8 weeks. So it's not realistic to think you can completely get rid of them in that same amount of time. But don't feel discouraged that you can't see progress. I hope that you've already seen progress in your life, in your home and in your family life through this program so far. I think we have heard tons of great stories and testimonials and things that people have been sharing. I so love when you guys share things on the Facebook group, because I think it's so encouraging to everybody. But even though it feels like the habits are slow to take effect. It's slow to see, it looking the way you hope it'll look completely. We're not, I keep saying we're not focusing on perfection, but we really have got to let go of that expectation. It's so toxic. It's toxic for you. It's toxic for your children. And you really need to leave that intention open, that you guys have room. You have room to grow. You have room and time and space to make progress. And you will see drastic improvements, even with little consistent moving forward. Don't let yourself slide back with discouragement. And that discouragement will come when you do not allow yourself that permission to let go of that perfection. That idea that perfection is the goal and that nothing until that happens is valuable. You really need to, and that's what we're going to do with that is what we're going to focus on when it comes to our mindset practice this week, because we are not going to let that discourage us and take us in a backslide when we've made so much progress so far, okay? And I've said this before too, but you've got to remember, even if you are still on week 1 in the actual to-do list checklist or whatever, you've still made progress. You will never go back to being the person that you started this program, because you have more knowledge and information now. You have, even if it's just access to it, you still have, there's not been one person that has not participated at all. And so every little step you take, it really does matter. What I want you to do this week when it comes to this mindset, to keep yourself moving forward and not let yourself slip back at this tipping point, this crucial point that we're at right now, is I want you guys to recognize 5 successes every day, and I want you to text them to your accountability partner. Now you're thinking, 5 successes every day? And this can be anything. We're talking 1% successes. This doesn't have to be all about the program. It could be about your personal life, or it could be in a relationship, or it could be and on a business goal, or anything. Just 5 successes. I want you to recognize that you may have successes and you have progress every single day, even if your progress doesn't feel that monumental. Successes are 1%, okay? So I want you to text them to your accountability partner every day. And I'm going to watch for that post this week where I ask you to share your successes too, because we're going to have some sharing there, and we can encourage each other, and you'll get entries into the drawings for the weekly drawings for one-on-one mentoring sessions. And I don't know if anybody has any of you that haven't had the experience to have a one-on-one mentoring session understand the value of that. What the one-on-one mentoring sessions give you is it allows you for you and I to come together and where I ask you questions, you ask me questions, we talk about the situation and where you're at in your goal, and we identify places that you feel are stumbling blocks, or that you feel that you want to make more progress in, and we come up with customized solutions specifically for you. It can be so valuable. So going on that Facebook group and participating as much as possible so you can get your name into the drawing. It not only helps everybody in the Facebook group feel encouraged, it keeps you focused on the program, but that one-on-one mentoring sessions can be so valuable, especially when you're in a stuck position, or when you feel like you're at this point in the program, when you're at this tipping point where you can feel overwhelmed and discouraged. Totally worth taking the time to do, and having that customized time where I can help problem solve specifically for you reaching your goal. And those of you who have been who have drawings, who have been winners of the drawing and have not yet scheduled your mentoring meeting, you are welcome to still do that. Just that you can use it anytime between now and the next couple of weeks, plus the 30 days after the program ends. So make sure you don't let that slip out of your hands, because it can be a really powerful tool. After you, you're gonna text your accountability partner every day, and you're gonna review your checklist, and you're gonna mark off any portion. So I'm gonna actually stop sharing for a second so you can see me a little bit bigger. So I have a checklist here that's just like a daily thing that I use. But I wanted to show this because I see how I mark, where am I? See how I mark boxes halfway? This is what I mean by checking any amount that you want. I love the idea, since we're focusing on 1% improvements, right? I love the idea that if I did it part of the way, or even a quarter of the way, then I get credit for that quarter. Look at this one right here. I get credit for that quarter. Even if it's not all the way done. I love that. It's one of the reasons why I use the boxes, because I don't just use check marks. I actually fill it in and give myself credit for effort. And if you look at this, look how not perfect my checklist is. How not perfect I get everything done. But how I look at this, and I think this is a fabulous checklist. I think this week, this was a while ago, I just grabbed an example just to show you. But I look at that week and I think, look at how much I got accomplished. I don't look at it and say everything's not marked off. And that's what I want you to do with your mindset this week. Take your checklist. This is your current checklist, right? And fill in the boxes for, you've got your review ones on this side. This is your previous checklist items. And I want you to look at it and give yourself credit, even if it's only filled in a 16th. Give yourself any amount of credit that, what? Oh, am I frozen? Tell me if I'm frozen. Am I frozen still? Oh, I'm not frozen. Okay, good. Tannen's computer. She told me I was frozen on her computer, so I was worried there's frozen to everybody. Anyway, so give yourself credit for any amount of progress that you make, okay? And I'm wanting you to do this here because I want you to stop looking at that checklist and being discouraged by it. The reason why I give you a checklist that reviews everything clear back to the very, very beginning step is because I want you to be able to evaluate every week and give yourself credit for the things that you've done, even if you've marked that same box off 8 weeks in a row, you know, because you did it the first week. I want you to see the progress you've made and give yourself the opportunity to evaluate that every single week. And then when it comes to the daily habits, this is just for the current week, right? So every little box, that's 7 boxes in each row. The daily habits, just give yourself credit, okay? And then I want you to take your to-do list here. Anything that you have left over that's undone, I want you to make a 1% plan for the next week. So I want you to take a day planner, or I want you to write a notebook, and I want you to get a notebook, and I want you to write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever you use. If you have a planner or a you know, a list that you use, however you do it, I want you to look at what you've got to do and see what do you think you can include in the next week. Doesn't mean you have to put every single thing off the checklist. If you've got too much, then can be done in 1 week. That's okay. But I want you to make a 1% plan for your week and write out what you want to try and do 1%, even if it's just the next day, or try and break it up through the week so it doesn't look so overwhelming. All right. That is all we're doing for mindset this week. Okay, I'm going back to share. Hang on. Okay. So when it comes to your vision work, I want you to now if you're caught up and right with me and in what's happening right now, and it's okay if you're not, but when you get to this point, you'll have introduced your command station to your family. And this isn't going to be a one and done thing. This is going to be an active station that is going to be an active part of your system, okay? And one of the tools that it is meant to be is a vision board. It's your family vision board, basically. You have inspiring, you know, your vision, you're inspired of pictures of what you want your family to look like, what you want to feel like. In the beginning, you had those pictures up by your checklist or in your sacred space, by your compassion whispers and stuff like that. Now they're out for everyone to see. That does not mean you get to stop using them on a regular basis. And I want you to start modeling that to your children. And this is what this looks like. This looks like you taking intentional time every day or on a regular basis. I love every day until it becomes a habit, okay? Doing it every day until it's something that's just something you love to do or something that everybody is familiar with is a really good idea to do it that kind of intensely in the beginning. So just instead of just maybe right after you get ready for the day, or, you know, and you're coming out of your bedroom and it's the time of day when you're coming into the rest of your family, stand there in front of your family command station and look at your vision board. And I want you to focus on the things that you've got up there when it comes to the vision inspiration, as well as your motto. You might read through your family motto to yourself. You might look at your things to look forward to. And I want you to focus on the feelings that you have when you look at these things. When you look at those inspiration pictures of your family, think about, literally talk to yourself in your mind, and think about how, you know, describe in your mind how wonderful it was to when you're remembering how it felt, why you picked that picture, what feelings does that bring up, what does that remind you of. And when you're talking or when you're looking at the inspiration, the things to look forward to section of your board, those are things that you are either planning together as a family, or they might be goals that you're wanting to accomplish. Look at those and think about how you're going to feel when they actually happen, and start I mean, say in your mind it in a way that it's like, oh my gosh, I can just imagine. That's why I put, I can just imagine as an inspiration quote, as a starting point. You're like, I can just imagine feeling like, and feel, you know, and just explaining it as if you're in the moment of remembering or experiencing that thing that you're looking forward to already happening, or having happened, or it's already happening. Does that make sense? Like, say one of your things to look forward to is one of the, you know, I suggested go ahead and put up like a cleaning goal. Like, say maybe you're wanting to keep your family gathering space, like your family room or your living room, clean and orderly, so it feels like, so you have a clean space for your family to hang out in. So you'd stand there and you'd maybe put the picture up of a cute, clean living room, and you look at that picture and you're like, oh, I can totally imagine coming after sitting or finishing dinner and everybody coming to the family room to hang out after in the evening, and just feeling so much relaxation and peace and enjoyment, because there is no clutter everywhere that makes me feel like I want to say, put this away, do this, da, 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 you know. And I just, oh my gosh, I can just feel the stress rolling off my shoulder and everybody just feeling so light and unburdened. Oh, I just love that feeling. Like, do you see how you're just kind of looking at the picture and imagining all the benefits, all the feelings that you want to have when those things happen? There's a couple reasons you do this. One, it helps you keep focused on doing hard things and going outside your comfort zone when it comes to creating these this system for your family. Okay, I know it's a stretch sometimes. I know sometimes it's easy to fall back to our old habits. I know it's easy to just want to just start barking out, do this, do that, do that, instead of allowing your system to give people that structure to self-evaluate what they need to do. I know it's not that easy. Is anyone feeling like it's easy? How many of you are feeling like, I mean, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10. And I know I'm not expecting it to be super hard. It's okay if it's not easy to you, but oh good. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, oh my gosh, I'm almost in fetal position, it's so hard, or 1, it's cake, this is totally a piece of cake to me. Where's everybody at? 5 or 6, okay, 5 or 6 or 7. That is about where I'm expecting most people to be, because it is a stretch, but I know that you can see the value in it. And so it's something that you are willing to push yourself forward in doing. I tell you, it is going to be easier and easier and easier as you move forward. So worth keep moving forward. It really is, because it starts out at, even if it is starting out at a 10 for you, it really, the further you go and the more normal it gets, the easier it gets, until it really will be a 1 eventually. It'll be like, no big deal. But I want you to so focusing on and using this vision board for your own personal self will help you stay focused and help you push through that uncomfortable, this is so hard feeling, because you will be living and feeling those results that as you stand there and imagine that. And if, I mean, to go on to an oola-roola, you know, that's what I call kind of a plane, it also puts a lot of positive energy out there, and all these wonderful things that you're imagining will start to be attracted to you. You will start projecting the things that you want, and they will be attracted to you. So your family being more cooperative, your family having that experience, you'll be attracting that just by the energy, the positive energy you're putting into looking at your vision board and creating those opportunities for that to have happen. I don't know if that's too out there for some of you, but just, you know, even if you don't put a lot of stock into it, it just is something that happens. When you focus on something positive, it's attracted, positive things are attracted to you. And so you will have more, you'll see more and more of that positive result come into your family. And while you're doing this and modeling this for your family, take the opportunity to pull a kid, either premeditated, like think, I really need to inspire one, you know, if you're having an especially difficult time with one of your children or your husband even, or you just want to have an inspiring moment connection time with one of your kids. You can premeditate this, or you can do it spontaneously. Maybe when your kids walks by while you're doing it, and just pull them aside, and instead of doing it in your head, do it out loud. Say out loud, go, I just love this picture. You know what, when you look at that picture, don't you just remember, and go in to whatever you remember. Or I just love the feeling when we blah, 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 and do your explanation. Or I just love the idea, and, you know, just kind of do that imaginary thing and just involve the person you're with by saying, don't you think, or what do you think when you see that? Or ask them questions, kind of engage them and get them to start recognizing this command station as a living part of the inspiration of your family, and a place that is a positive and inspiring environment for them to use actively. All right. I left a space in your module here for you to kind of brainstorm, because I want you to premeditate if you need to, because this, especially if this isn't something that comes natural to you, I know this is something that stretches me. It still stretches me to not say things that are like current, but say things, talk in a way that is hopeful, a way that is where I'm imagining and envisioning and feeling and experiencing something that's in the future. I think it takes some intention and effort at first. So I left this space, gave you a couple of prompts of something to easy to just start a sentence, and you can kind of fill some things out there so that when you have this opportunity to inspire one of your kids or to pull them in and do it, you kind of already have something in your mind. You don't have to be so spontaneously brilliant, right? You can kind of premeditate and take that time. So that's your vision work for this week. Okay. This is what I started saying earlier, was the habits. I was thinking it was the mindset, but this is still mindset, but this is the habits with your children. And I started talking about this earlier. Sorry, I got a little confused as to what I was going for. I knew I was talking about this today, but I was a little mixed up in my order. So am I going too fast? Everybody good? Okay. So your habits this week. Your children are going through the things, they're going to be going through the ups and downs that you've been going through. I want you guys to be really careful to not go into mom mode. Maybe, yeah, I want you to be in mom mode, but I don't want you to go into maybe some unhealthy habits that you may or may not have had in the past. If a lot of times our mom mode is very, this is what needs to be done, this is what, you know, very structured kind of drill sergeant mode, right? Where we know there's tons to be done, and so we are just ordering our kids around, this is what, and you're forgetting at how hard some of these changes and some of these new habits and self-awareness can be. I'm hoping that is fresh in your mind, because we just went through this for ourselves. It's one of the reasons why I spend so much time, and I recommend we spend so much time focusing on it for our own personal, so that you are really in touch and very empathetic with what your children are going to be going through over the next couple of weeks as they learn to self-evaluate and try to participate and do well in these areas that you're introducing. Right now we're focusing on daily do's. You've got to be very sensitive to the idea that your children have gremlins coming up. When they're not doing everything they're supposed to, there's a reason. It's not just because they're naughty, or not just because they're lazy, or not just because they don't want to do it. It's the same with us. It's not just because we are lazy. It's because we have things coming up in our minds. It's the things we can't have. It's because we have, sometimes it's environmental. Sometimes it's a situation environmentally that you need to problem solve, like space issues or storage issues or too much stuff issues, or all kinds of things that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, and all the things that you've experienced when you were trying to start your daily do's and make them a habit. Be compassionate and empathetic with your children, and be very sensitive to that. But you have, just like you have been taught tools over the last couple of weeks, this is your opportunity. You get to teach what you have learned, okay? So I want you to, there's a space at the top of your individual storage pouches between their name and where you put the tickets, where it says permission to. And if you've laminated yours pouches, you can take a dry erase marker and just write things on there and start to model at giving your kids permission for to not put so much weight and responsibility on them to be perfect at what you're asking them to do. And there's a little bit of unparenting here that we need to do, because I would be surprised if there's not a single one of you out there who have not instilled some level of mom tells you to do it, she expects you to do it kind of expectation in parenting. That's just how that's just very natural. I'm not criticizing you. I'm empathizing with you, is telling you, I know, I get it. I know what that's like. We think, oh, we have to get stuff done. We tell you how to do it. We expect you to do it. And because we're juggling so many things, we are not often patient enough to allow that space and time for them to learn and grow into it. But we don't want them to focus on, I'm a disappointment. I'm not doing it the way my mom wants me to. All these different things that could be gremlins that'll be coming up to them. Instead, you want to show them, you personally need to be focusing on the permissions and giving your kids those permissions, so that you are not tempted to go back to that if that was you, or if you have any of that inclination. Is anyone feeling like I'm just talking to my screen, or does anybody relating with this? If you are, shoot me a message in the chat. But you will be slower to revert to that, and you'll be slower to anger and to accusation of being like thinking about your kids as just lazy or irresponsible, or all they want to do is be on the screens, or all they whatever it is you're thinking, that all those gremlins that come up about other people. You'll be slow to have those drive your reactions if you are focusing on teaching them and giving them these permissions and compassionate whispers that are encouraging and help encourage people to keep trying. Okay, that's what you're wanting. You're wanting your children to stay focused on trying. It might take some time, but as long as they're trying, they're making progress. If they're discouraged and feel terrible about themselves, they're just not going to stop making progress. So you can use the blank space above their individual storage pouches to either write on them, or you could even print these out and print some of them out, print some of the ones that we used for our sacred spaces. Yes, you're right, Shayla. Kids totally have gremlins. And the way we react to our kids often tell them gremlins. And it's not your fault. I'm not saying that to say that it's your fault, but I'm going to tell you that you have the ability to, and the tools now to help them combat those gremlins, because they could come up from anywhere. It's not just you, it's their teachers, it's their friends, it's their own, maybe this is a little out there for some of you, but it's the negative spirits or entities or things around us that don't want us to succeed, that want to attack us, that are trying to get us to be discouraged and not progress. there is opposition in all things. So whether you're religious or not, you've got to realize that just a law of the universe is there's an opposition in all things. So if there's good, there has to be bad. And anytime you are trying to make progress, there is opposition that is going to show up in people or situations or all this different stuff, and you have to have tools to combat that. And it's absolutely true that kids are faced with them just as much as we are as adults, and this is so powerful. In fact, when you're dealing with a frustrated or complaining or discouraged child, this is a great time to sit down and be like, hey, I hear that you are, so empathize with them first. I can hear that you're really frustrated, or it sounds like you're not feeling that great about yourself, or whatever. Just describe what you're hearing and empathize with him and be like, I get that. Sometimes I feel that way about myself too, or sometimes I run into discouraging thoughts, or sometimes I give myself a hard time. And but you know what I do? I remember, and I give myself permission and give them an example and teach them how to do it. And you could even give them some suggestions. These are ones that I put on your module, are totally common ones and very applicable to children. They're applicable to us adults, but these happen to be ones that I think are very applicable to children, but it could be anything. You make it, I feel like we've talked about this enough, we've practiced this enough that I'm sure lots of them are coming to your mind. And if you need some help, post on the Facebook group a situation or a scenario, and we can all give you suggestions as to permissions or compassion whispers that will help combat that, and give them that tool. So teach them that as you're moving forward with this, and keep your relationship with them problem solving and compassionate and empathetic, so that you really can make progress and not revert back to being grumpy. Okay? All right, so now we're at our system. Our system this week, this is our heavy part of our training. This week, and this goes back to our guiding principle this week, we are focusing on consequences, natural consequences instead of punishments. So right now, we have only been introducing to your family over the last couple of weeks your daily dues system, okay? And it's going to take, it is absolutely normal for this to take several weeks to kind of feel like it's running smoothly. Your kids have to get used to the idea that it's not necessarily it's not necessarily a checklist, that it's a way to self-evaluate. That's a big mind shift for children because they're used to just having to do what they have been told. It goes back to that. We have a lot of times us as moms just go to the drill sergeant, do this, do this, do this, do this, and follow my orders. And that, while that can get things accomplished, one of the things that teaches kids is just do what you're told, don't think for yourself. This system is teaching your children how to think for themselves. It's teaching them to recognize and think about how they affect the world around them, how their actions affect their family, how they are an important piece of their family puzzle, how they are someone who is an integral part and an important part of the cooperation and the help and love and joy and experience in their home. And it's a totally different way of thinking. It's not just a system. It is a completely different way of thinking. So you need to give enough time for this paradigm shift to kind of start to take hold. And so introducing your daily dues and problem solving them and helping kids feel comfortable with them. You'll have some kids that are that's no problem. Then you might have others that are a little more, take a little bit more time and effort. In the last module, I know it was huge. I know it was long. I know the mentoring session lasted 3 hours. It was huge, but I wanted to make sure that you had all the tools I felt like you needed to problem solve as you moved forward when it came to this daily dues. And I asked you, I love that, Susan. Susan says, I'm really impressed with how well my kids are handling their daily dues. I'm sure it helps that they haven't had to do chores. And exactly, I was just going to say, I I wanted to make sure everybody knows that, yes, I highly recommend that you stop any chore system, any punishment or consequences or anything that you already have in place that you're typical, and just focus on this for right now. Just focus on this one aspect until you've problem solved all the little things, and it's just starting to, doesn't have to be working perfectly, it just has to be working smoothly. Okay, it's just, okay, we've got all the big hurdles out of the way. And Camille, I agree, it is exhausting when you have to think for everyone in your family, and that's why this system is that's one of the reasons why I teach this system to not just stay-at-home moms, but mompreneurs, or people who have side jobs or side hustles, because when this works and runs in your family, you have so much more freedom of mental energy that you can devote to a side hustle or something that you have are working on the side, without feeling like your family's not running or working properly. You're either, a lot of people who have home businesses or mom jobs, they are weighted down with guilt because they're either not doing anything in their family or they're neglecting their business. And this is one of those systems that gives you the ability, gives you more time and mental energy to work on your business. And it feels like you are on top of things when it comes to your family, because everybody is pitching in mentally and physically in your family. It's so huge. So at this point, when you're, I've been asking you to focus those daily do's, problem solve as they come up. If you have any problems that we have not yet addressed, anything that's come up, I can't urge you to do this enough. I need you to go onto the Facebook group, and I want you to ask questions, or I need you to send me an email or something so I can make sure that I answer those questions in the live Q&A, or even create a post that answers the question for you, okay? So I just want to make sure no one feels like they have a question out there that is not being answered or not being addressed, or that they think that they might be the only one that has that question. Be brave. And if you feel like you want some specific individualized, personalized attention when it comes to problem solving, if you've won one of the one-on-one sessions, make sure you schedule and take advantage. And if you haven't won one, you still have the opportunity. We have 2 more weeks of drawings. And if you aren't one someone in a drawing and you would like to find out how to work with me one-on-one, we can have a quick assessment. You can sign up to do an assessment call, and I can find out what it is you're looking for, and I can give you an idea of what it costs to work with me, to hire me on a one-on-one basis, because that may be the right step for you moving forward. If it's not, I'm always available in the Facebook groups to answer any questions. I know I keep reiterating this, but I just want you to know that you are not alone, and that you totally have 100% access to me to problem solve. So no one let yourself get discouraged over problems that come up that you are not sure how to handle. So once you're feeling like you've problem solved all the basics, and it's pretty much getting ready to move forward, and it might be this week, it might be another week or 2 before this happens, then you're ready to start allowing natural consequences to occur. And natural consequences are not, sometimes that term is misrepresented, because it makes it sound like it's not something you don't know what's going to happen, that it's just something the universe produces. And that's not true. I put this comparison on your module because I want you to understand that the difference between consequences and punishments. Consequences, they may look the same as punishments to you, but it's how and when they are created and how they're delivered that makes the difference between them being a consequence and a punishment. It may be the actual same thing, like maybe someone has a privilege taken away or something like that, might be the natural consequence. That might also be something you use as a punishment. The difference is this, let me go over this comparison and it'll show you the difference, okay? So a consequence is proactive and non-emotional. It means that it is thought of ahead of time. You've created the consequence. You already know what the consequence is, and you've done it when you're not in the heat of the moment. There's no emotion in it because you're thinking hypothetically. You're not angry. You're just thinking hypothetically, if this happens, this is what could go on, right? When you punish, oftentimes it is reactive. It's when you're reacting to a situation that's current, which is often laced with high emotions, anger, and all this other type of things, which makes it completely feel different. And oftentimes that emotion and that reactive quality to a punishment can make it exaggerated, which is another one I put down there. It can make it heavier and bigger than necessary, okay, because it's created in the heat of the moment and in emotions. A consequence is something that's agreed upon ahead of time. In other words, everyone in your family will know what the consequence is before it ever happens. And because they know, it doesn't feel like they're being attacked. It's impersonal. It's fair. You've already discussed it in a completely a non-heated of the moment, time. They know, they've agreed to it. They're not feeling like they're in trouble, so they're open to agreeing to it when you're discussing it, and it's not personal. So when it happens, it doesn't feel like they're being attacked. It just feels like it's something that happens after a choice has been made. So it's just a natural consequence. It's the next step after a certain choice or decision has been made, or action has been taken. And that allows teaching in consequences. That allows the consequence to teach a lesson where they can focus on what happened or what the cause was, why they had to experience a consequence, as opposed to just being angry that they're being punished or that they're being targeted. Because that's what punishments do. They feel personal because they're reactive, they're in the moment, they're in the heat of the moment, they're spontaneous, they're unexpected, they feel like blind sides because the kid they don't already know what the punishment is. Feels like mom and dad are disappointed or are angry or something, and they create something and attack the kid. That's what a punishment feels like when it is unexpected. It's not well defined ahead of time. It happens in the heat of the moment. It feels personal, feels like an attack. And because it has that emotion, it's often exaggerated or bigger than necessary. And what it creates in the child is a feeling of resentment. They don't learn, they're no longer focused on even what they did wrong. All they're focused on is how mad they are at you. As you're dealing out punishment, they're thinking, my mom is so mean, or this is so unfair, I hate my life. They're angry, and that's not a situation that teaches a lesson. That is a situation that creates a power struggle. It damages your relationship, and it is often extremely ineffective. And no one feels good afterwards. No one is happy about a punishment. You're not happy that you have to dish it out because you love your kids. No one loves to punish their kids. No good parent loves to punish their kids. And no kid loves to be punished. But a consequence that you have to lovingly, that you have to love a child through is an opportunity. Not only is it focused on teaching, but it gives you the opportunity to be empathetic and to show empathy, to show them that you understand how hard it can be when you make a mistake and that you have to suffer through a consequence. Because we can be forgiven for all the mistakes. We're allowed to make mistakes. It's part of our family intentions, right? It's part of the intention for this program is to learn and to grow, and you can't learn and grow if you aren't allowed to make mistakes. But sometimes mistakes have consequences that you can't choose. If you put your hand on a burner, the consequence is your hand is burned. You can't choose that I know that's a dumb example, but it's something that you can choose the action, but you can't always choose the consequence. And some consequences are just natural. It just occurs occurs naturally as a result of a certain action or decision. And that's what you want to create for these scenarios when it comes to your family system, like your daily dues or doing work, your own personal responsibility, that there are consequences for not doing what you've said you're going to do. But because you've decided what these consequences are going to be ahead of time, everyone's agreed, it's not a surprise, it's not impersonal, it's not emotional or rash, then you can lovingly tell your empathize with your child that I know consequences are hard, you know, and no, it's no fun to have to lose you know, the privilege of playing your game for the next 24 hours, or, you know, whatever it is you decide. I'm just saying hypothetically. And because you're able to do that in a loving, empathetic way, it allows an opportunity for connection too. You are not destroying your relationship. You are actually bonding your relationship, even in a consequence situation. How amazing is that? Like, that is so huge. Let's see. Yeah, Julie, that's exactly what we're going to do this this week. Is you are going to come up with the consequences as a family. You're going to talk about them, and that's in our to-dos here in just a second. Once you're ready to say, you're going to have a quick family rally. Once you're ready to kind of say, okay, I think we've got all our daily dues worked out, everything, although they're all problem solved, everyone's doing them, and we're working, you know, everyone's doing them well. Again, not perfectly, but well. This is the time when you're going to have a quick family rally that you're going to be like, okay, you know, we've given ourselves a lot of time to kind of get used to this new system, and now it's time that we need to put it, it's officially time that we're putting all the things into all the parts of the system into oh my gosh, I just want you into action. Can't you just read my mind? Why do I have to actually say it out loud? Yes, all the parts of the system into action. And that means consequences may be necessary, and we need to talk about what those consequences are. That's how I would approach it. I would say, it's ready to be, we're official, everything's happened, everybody's knows what they're doing. I feel like we've problem solved everything that's come up. Everyone feel good about it. Get everyone's approval, kind of, you know, rally, just talk. You should be getting the hang of at this point, kind of having these family discussions, because this rally that you guys do on a regular basis to kind of introduce these new pieces and parts, do you realize this is part of a family culture of everybody working together and contributing both intellectually and physically. You're mentally contributing. Again, you as a parent are really directing what's happening. You're really making the ultimate decisions, and it's not a democracy. It's not the majority rules, but everybody is having a say. Everyone is being heard. Everyone is being seen, and you're modeling that. Remember, that's in our intention for this new week's intention. You're modeling that you can be heard, you are seen, that you're understood, you can express your feelings, you can say the things that you need. And these rallies are that perfect family experience that you're going to get used to, kind of being able to get together and have that kind of a conversation with your family. I hope you're already seeing that, because it's such a powerful tool. These family rallies are just so powerful. But anyway, so okay, so let's see. I'm going to pause right here. Okay, Andrea, I'm looking at my questions. Andrea asked if I ever answered the question about the 2 kids in the same room for daily dues. I did not. Thank you for reminding me. Will you type in there if you're going to be able to stay to the end to the Q&A, and I will address that at the end Q&A. If not, I can do a live or something about it on the Facebook group. Thank you again for reminding me. I'll answer that at the end. Okay. Okay, great. All right, so this family rally, you're going to say, okay, there may be some times when consequences have to be, may have to occur, and we need to talk about what those consequences are. So you're going to tell them that, you're going to describe what the expectations are. This is an opportunity to review the expectations just really quickly. What is the expectation? And this consequence is typically going to be what happens if they don't do their daily dues, or what are they allowed to do when they're what are they allowed to and what they're not allowed to do until their daily dues are done. Does that make sense? And the consequences are going to happen when they try to cheat or kind of fudge on doing their daily dues. Maybe they move their tickets and then they just to say they're done, but they really aren't done. We already went over problem solving that, where you addressed, is it all these other reasons? Why is it? Because you're assuming that it's a problem and not just that they're doing something devious. Once all those problems have been addressed, then the consequences come into play naturally because you've already problem solved everything. There should be no reason. So the next assumption is, you must be doing this on purpose, or you must be deciding intentionally that you don't want to follow this particular, guideline or rule that our family has all agreed to. And that unfortunately results in having to live through a consequence, and whatever the consequence is. And let me give you an example. So maybe if you move your daily dues ticket and you're really not done, so you're not honest, the action is not being honest in evaluating your daily dues, whether your daily dues are done or not. Maybe the first time it's done is a warning, and you come and have that kind of conversation with mom, and you have to go back and go ahead and do what you need to do. But then maybe the second consequence is, I'm really sorry, but you've lost your free time privilege, and maybe your free time is defined as whatever it is their go-to favorite thing that they need to do that day. Like maybe it's a game they like to play, or a device they like to use, or maybe it's spending time with friends, or something like that. Whatever they're just taking that opportunity for that particular free time activity away. But what I want you to do, that's just an example, but because you are going to decide it ahead of time, and you're going to let them input on what these consequences are, I want you to, before you have the rally, to kind of think of those scenarios. Like, what is going to be your problem? Your kids. You're going to be able to keep them up, or come up with scenarios. What are you willing to enforce? Okay, because any consequence that you put into place, you have to be willing to enforce, and you don't want it to be something that limits your freedom. Okay, so you have to, because you don't want your consequences to be harder on you than they are on the kids, right? So I want you to kind of premeditate what you have in mind, and ask yourself, is this something I'm willing to follow through with? Because the kiss of death when it comes to consequences is inconsistency. And I cannot emphasize that enough. So if you don't think you are willing to actually follow through with it, or to keep up on it, if you're like, I don't have the energy I'm just gonna let him do it, I don't have the energy to fight it right now. If you think that the consequence you set up is going to elicit that kind of reaction from you, don't choose it. Because it'll be less effective than if you didn't have a consequence at all. I'm not kidding. If you set something up and then and dismiss it and make it so you're inconsistent, it's completely shooting yourself in the foot, because they will no longer take any consequence serious, because they know they're not consistent and they can just play the odds. All right. So I would discuss it with your spouse, whatever they are, with your spouse beforehand, if you want, so that he is kind of you can get the heads up and kind of the feedback. Unless they are someone who is home with you, or just make sure that they're okay with it also. If they're ever responsible to do it without you around, if it's mostly something that's going to be happening during the day when maybe they aren't around, then make sure they are aware and know in case that they are responsible for enforcing it or helping a kid have to experience it. But it's not really something that you have to, it has to be something that both of you can live with. Okay, it can't, a lot of times we have different discipline and we have different discipline ideas with our spouse. I get that, I totally understand that. But since you are the mom that's home with your children most of the time, unless it's unless you are in a situation where you're splitting time and your husband and you whatever it is you decide, it has to be consistent no matter who's in charge. It can't be a good cop, bad cop, mom and dad routine. It's got to be, you got to be together. And one of the things that you can do, especially if you are, have very different ideas about this, is share this comparison of consequences versus punishment. And if you still have conflict between the two of you as to deciding how to handle this, seriously consider joining the Parenting with Love and Logic course that's going to be starting in June that I'm going to be teaching. It'll be a once a week live class. It'll be in the evenings, and it'll be for couples, for husbands and wives. It can be individuals, but it'll be a 2-for-1 spouse. Your spouse will be free, and you'll be able to roll your commitment right into that program if that's something that would help you. But that would be a really good course to help you get on the same page for how you dish out consequences. Okay. Anyway, that's just a little side note just to make sure that you know that this doesn't have to be perfect right now. There is help if you need additional help with this moving forward. But when you bring together as a family, already know kind of what you want to do, have a talk to your spouse, kind of what you want to do, so you're on the same page, and then ask your kids ideas. It's really funny because most of the time they have way worse consequences for themselves than you come up with. But make sure that you have a very open and honest discussion. And yeah. Oh, I love that, Andrea. Yeah, make sure that they know that both mom and dad are together on the consequences, because you definitely have to be that united front. And even if you don't, I feel like I started in the middle of a sentence. I don't even know what I was saying, but I just saw Andrea's comment. But when it comes to mom and dad together, even if dad doesn't agree with what you do, or doesn't necessarily like what you do, you have to point out the quantity of time that you're having to be the one who delivers the consequence. And just that simple fact, saying, I understand we have a difference of opinion about this, but this is the fact is, I'm the one who has to do this, and this is what I'm comfortable with. Can you support me in trying what I'm comfortable with right now? Like, even if you have differences of opinions about how it's done, asking for their support to support you in what you think you want to try. It's just kind of like what we talked about a couple of weeks ago with them just accepting the whole system. Ask them to support you in trying something out. And when you're talking with your kids, the important thing is to let them give their suggestions, be open to compromise, but just don't come in hard-nosed, this is what's going to happen. Be open to compromise and do it for a trial term. So even if it's less than what you want as a consequence, or maybe maybe you're really compromising and you're like, okay, we'll try that. And say we're going to try it for X amount of time. Maybe you're going to try it for 1 week. Don't try it for 1 day. Don't try it for something that's an unrealistic amount of time. 1 week could be the minimum. Try whatever you're going to do for a week when you've come to a family compromise. And once you try it for that week, you can come back and say, hey, if you noticed, I don't think that consequence was motivating enough. I don't think that is It didn't seem like that worked. And remember, your punishment versus consequence, a lot of times we think of punishments, this is something I need to say. Punishments, oftentimes we think, are what motivates kids to do what they're supposed to do. Consequences also do not motivate kids. And I just said that, that's why I brought this to my mind. That is not true. Consequences don't motivate kids to do what they're supposed to. Your vision and commitment and purpose, that is inspiring your kids to do stuff, okay? The consequences are just something that happens when we get lax in what we're doing, and they are always, always, always dished out with empathy and love, and but they are not excused out of softness. Does that make sense? So when you come back to it after the trial, you're not going to say it doesn't motivate, but you're going to say, I don't think that consequence was very effective. I don't think that worked. The point of having a natural consequence is to help teach you personal responsibility, is to help, encourage you to recognize and remember that you're an important part of our family and you're an important part of all the work that needs to be done, that we need you to cooperate. It all works together. If we don't all work together, nothing works, right? All these fun things that we want to do as a family, it all is possible because we all pitch in and help. If we don't pitch in and help, not only do we lose those things, but sometimes we have to individually experience some consequences. And it doesn't seem like this particular consequence is working to help learn that level of responsibility, okay? Because it's supposed to be there to teach a lesson. So that's how I would address it after the trial, and then you can revise it, recompromise, re-talk about it. But just try something out for right now. When it comes to, this is our superpower mommy tip, okay? I keep talking about mommy empathy, but this, I can't emphasize enough how powerful this is. This will change you from being the mean mom that is, just hates fun and is always telling us to do things and you're just the meanest mom ever. You just take all the fun out of life and, because you're just making me do stuff all the time. This mommy empathy is like your superpower in your back pocket. You can always empathize with a kid about how hard life is. And when they have to suffer through a natural consequence, you lay that mommy empathy on thick, and you don't do it sarcastically. But what you never, never, never want to do when you're allowing them to feel a natural consequence is you do not want them to you don't want to say it, well, if you did this, then you wouldn't have to do da 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 da. Or if you just had done this, then you wouldn't have to feel that way, right? Like as if it serves you right. You don't want that serves you right attitude. You want to go to approach the kid like this. Oh, I am so sorry. I totally get how hard this is. That just, it sucks. I know not everybody says that, but I would say that. I'm like, this sucks. I hate when I have to do something hard, especially when I don't want to. And I hate that sometimes it takes away the freedoms that for me to do what I want to. I totally get it. I believe me, I get it. Hey, buddy, I'm right here with you. I love you. No matter what. I know this is hard, but just know that I'm here for you. And you can they can be, oh, please let me have it back. Oh, this isn't fair. I totally get it. I know. Oh my gosh. I totally know how you feel. I am right here with you. If you need a hug, I'll let you know. You can be like, just, you're there. You don't, it's the answer to every complaint, whine, manipulation that they throw at you is empathy. It is completely disarms any of that. Empathy completely disarms manipulation. Absolutely. There's like no, bleeding heart issue, because you are bleeding with them. You are empathizing with them. It completely takes the wind out of any manipulative, tool that your kid might have. So anyway, I would lay that on thick, and it also will help you be less it'll help it just be more effective. Okay, I'm done with the mom and with the consequence and punishment. It's such a huge topic that it is something that I teach in a whole 6-week program. So I have a lot to say about it, but I know we don't have time for me to go on and on. So this week, now that okay, so our wholehearted work system, the actual working system, is all, the basic element is these tickets. We've only introduced the daily dues tickets so far. This week, I'm going to start introducing the job tickets. Now, you're only going to be preparing them. You're not actually going to be using them at all this week, okay? So I just want to say that up front. I'll be talking more about next week, and I did put a blurb in here, down here, about kind of how to use them. I'm not even going to talk about that today, okay? I just put that in there for you to kind of have a little bit of preparation for next week. But this week, we are just going to get prepared to we're just going to create the tickets, okay? So I have given you each a basic job ticket checklist. Let me click on this and see if I can. It looks like this, okay? So this is a list broken down by the type of room in your home. Just the basic cleaning. This is not like spring cleaning or deep cleaning. This is just everyday basic cleaning for all the jobs that need to be done in your home, okay? You guys see that okay? Was everybody able to print this off? Do you guys have this? If you have it, I'd love you to pull it out so that you can look at it with me. You can see that next to each task, there are 3 columns. And I have put in, there's very faint suggestions, and I'm going to describe what these columns are. To start your creating your work tickets, you're going to start with this basic job ticket checklist. And this is going to help you kind of decide which ones you want to use. These are my suggestions, but this is 100% customizable system. If you don't like these particular suggestions, I'm going to show you how to customize your tickets in just a second. But you're going to use this checklist, and you're going to add any jobs. These are basic jobs. You're not going to overwhelm your family with 10,000 chores. You're looking at what is the realistic things that you get done on a regular basis, or that you want done on a regular basis. This is not, I mean, I even put some that are a little more than, like spot cleaning furniture and stuff like that. That's probably even a little bit more than necessary. But this is going to be virtually your complete list, excluding just like deep cleaning, like spring cleaning and that type of stuff. You know, like washing windows and all that kind of stuff. That's typically not going to be, that's not going to be on this list, but you may have different things that you want. But before you go crazy with adding things to this, you may want to wait and get the actual work tickets that I have created so you can see how the jobs are described, because you may decide you want to use my list to start out with, okay? And that's actually a good point. Sorry, I just made a good point. Let me bring it up again. You may, just because you're not going to be clear on what you need until you start to test it out. So you may want to just start with my tickets and test them out. And then as you go, you'll realize that, you know what, this particular ticket doesn't really work for us. It needs to say XXXXX, whatever it is you need to change. And so you might just make a ticket that has those adjustments. But you may not know those things until you actually get working on them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the module real quick. And I want you, what you're going to do is on this basic checklist, you're going to answer 3 questions for each job, okay? Each job has its own ticket, but it has 2 things. Each ticket has a frequency and a value, okay? And you have to decide for your family what those are. So a frequency refers to how often you, as the person who's managing the system, you're the mom, right, want to consider the job being done. It's not how often it has to be done. It's how often you're going to look at the ticket and say, does this need to be done today, or does this need to be done this week? If it's something it's something that either is done daily, weekly, or monthly. Those are really the only three categories. If it's something that is only done once or twice a year, that's not on this basic ticket. That's one of the things that that's going to be more of a bonus, or something that is we'll talk about in the expansion, like how to grow your system, which is going to kind of be where we may talk about it next week, but I think we might end up having to have just like a bonus call in the follow-up about how to expand this and have it grow with your family. But so on the job ticket checklist, this first, how often, this is your frequency. I have put in there my suggestion. If it says D, I suggest it's a daily, but I did it very, very lightly. So when you print this out, that just gives you like a way to do this quick without having to make big decisions. But you go ahead and write in what it is how often you want that done, okay? And then the value refers to approximately how long it should take to reasonably complete a job. Now, the reason why we have, and this is, well, on the tickets, this is indicated by stars. You can see over here what the ticket, this is a little part of one of the tickets, and it has these stars on each ticket. 1 star is an easy job. It's a job that takes under 10 minutes to complete. So it's like 5-10 minute job, right? 2 stars might be 10-15 minutes, under 20 minutes, and then 3 stars is over 20 minutes, but no more than 40. If it takes more than 40, you need to break it up into smaller pieces. In fact, you're going to have very, very few that are 3-star jobs. They're because, especially if you have little kids, you want to have lots and lots of easy, small, manageable jobs. So breaking a bigger job up into smaller pieces is way better than having more tickets than having less tickets that are harder jobs. Does that make sense? So on your basic job ticket checklist, are you all with me? I can't see the chat anymore. Hang on a second. Is everybody okay? Anybody still here? I'm in the lecture mode, I feel like, and I'm forgetting to check in with you guys. Okay, so on your checklist, you're going to say how often you want to consider the job to be done, not how often it has to be done, and then how hard the job is. Is it a 1-star, a 2-star, or a 3-star job? I put some suggestions on here of what I think they are, but depending on how you do your job or what your family situation's like, it may be different for you. So those are just suggestions. You mark in them what you think. Now this last column is a heart. It's a mini job, and this means, and I didn't actually put this on your module now that I think about it, a mini job means this is a job that is perfect for a little kid. So a job that someone under 5 years old can do without any problem, okay? And there is a place on the tickets for you to indicate that, to fill in the heart. And that is a way for young kids to recognize, to be able to do everything the same as their big brothers and sisters. They get to pick tickets, but they have to pick the ones that are the hearts. And it also gives an indication for the older kids that they can't pick all the ones with the hearts. Otherwise, they have to, well, I'll talk about it later, but otherwise they have to basically be a helper to the younger kid, because if all there's left is older jobs, then the younger child needs to be adopted as an apprentice, is what we call that. And they get to mentor that younger child with jobs that they're not able to do by themselves. So we'll talk about that next week when we talk about how you introduce these, how you actually physically use the tickets with your family. But this week we're just making them, okay? So the first step, you're going to go in and fill this checklist out. I did not include the tickets because I want you to check in with me before you get them, because I have 2 sets of tickets. I have Norwex specific tickets, and then I have generic work tickets. And I did that because, one, I personally use Norwex for all my household cleaning, and I know a lot of you that are participating in this group do also. So I obviously have Norwex tickets because that's what I recommend using. But I also have general work tickets. So if you don't know what Norwex is, or if you just like other tools, maybe you have other all natural things, or you use traditional cleaning tools, there's no judgment here. There's both options, but I do have Norwex specific tickets that say things like EnviroCloth, or they have the specific Norwex terminology. Then I have the exact same tickets that have that are generic. Okay. But how you get to choose which one you want, you can either have the Norwex tickets or you can have the generic tickets. If you really feel like you need both and you want both, I guess that's fine. I just don't want to overwhelm someone with a million downloads when it's not necessary. So when you have your job ticket checklist filled out, I am going to ask you to take a snapshot of it, and there'll be a post that I'm going to post probably on Wednesday, because tomorrow will be the check-in about watching the module and everything, and Wednesday will be the check-in about whether you get your job ticket checklist completed. You're going to post your picture on that checklist and say chemical free or regular, and let me know which one you want. And at that point, I will send you an email with all of the downloads for all of the tickets. Does that make sense? Everybody understand? No? Yes? Okay. So all you're worried about is this basic job ticket checklist to start out with. When you get your tickets, you're going to take this job ticket checklist and you're going to transfer that information that you've put on here to the individual tickets. And let me show you how we do this. I'm going to show you this can you guys see my side, Tana? Can you see the side thing that says fill and sign right here where my cursor is? Okay. So this is here's the Norwex tickets, and you can see there's this first page is, here, let me make this smaller. That first page is all full, and how you're going to cut these when you print these out, they're all color coded by room, and there's for bathrooms, there's 3 different colors for 3 different bathrooms, but you're just going to cut the page right down the middle. So 4 1/4 right down the middle, and then you'll cut on the lines here on the sides. So all your tickets will be the same size. They'll be the same width, and they'll be very uniform. So cut down each of the side lines, and then straight down the middle of the page, and your tickets will be perfectly cut. You have a full sheet of blank paper, of blank tickets at the end, and I'm going to show you here how. When you download, if you don't know how to do this, I know some people don't, and it's okay. I just want to, and if you do, sorry, I'm taking the time to do this, but I think this is important because I know people get stuck on wanting to customize things. I want to show you how easy it is to do that. So you'd go to when you download, okay. I'm such a fast talker sometimes, and I trip over myself. The link I give you is going to be a Google Doc, and it'll open a PDF. I want you to download it onto your computer so that you can open it with Adobe Acrobat Reader. I know that Macs have some kind of a PDF reader, and I do not know how that PDF reader allows you to fill and sign things, but I do know that the Adobe Acrobat Reader is a free download. If you don't have it, just download it off the internet. It works for it opens all PDFs, and it allows you to write on the PDFs once you've downloaded them. So download it and open it on your computer with Adobe Acrobat. If the Mac thing works in some other way, go for that also. But anyway, over here on the side panel of your Adobe, this section right here, it says fill and sign. If you click on that, then it opens, see this icon? It allows you to click and you can type whatever you want to type here. So I'm just gonna say, okay, but here you can make it smaller. So you can make it fit or you can make it bigger, whatever you want. And then you can just keep clicking to where you want, and you can add the instructions to customize your tickets. If you have jobs that I did not include, or if you want them to say something different than the ones that I gave instructions. You cannot customize the title over here. I would suggest handwriting the title, but the title is easy to handwrite. What is not easy to handwrite is all the instructions, because you want it to be small enough that it all fits on there. What I want to point out is I'm going to show you here the tickets, what they have on them. They have the supplies. They indicate what room they are. The color indicates the room. It indicates the job that's done and gives instructions for each, task that has to be done. There is 1 star pre-colored on each ticket, because every job is going to take at least the 5 minutes. If it's a harder job, you're going to have to hand color the additional stars. And also, if it's applicable for under 5-year-old, you're going to also color in the heart. Okay, and then right here on this blank section right here, that's where you're going to put the frequency, just like I showed here. You're going to put daily or weekly or monthly, whatever you want, and that's what you write in right there. That is a real whirlwind of setting up the checklists. Don't worry about how you're going to use them. Just read through and fill out the checklist and let me know which one you want to do by posting it on that check-in post, which set of tickets you want, and I will send you the set of tickets. Next week, we are going to talk in depth about how to actually use them and how to introduce them to your family. So the last thing I want to say is I want you to obtain some kind of a little ticket storage. This is what I like to use. I just think it's easy, it's cheap. I just bought one of these little card files, and that you can buy the little dividers, and I just put a label on them, and these are the labels that I used for the dividers on mine, okay? So these are the suggested dividers, labels, titles. And once you've got them all created, you've got your storage thing, you're going to have a quick family rally. And I put that on here this week, but I just don't think that's something you're going to need to worry about yet, because I think it's going to take you all week to get these ready and go ahead and introduce consequences and things like that this week. And next week, we will introduce job tickets, and really that's the last piece of the puzzle when it comes to this system. We are 8 minutes over today, but we're ready for Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. Oh, lots to go over. Thank you all for hanging in. Let's see. Okay. So Andrea's question, I'll answer your question. Andrea's question was about having 2 kids in the same room for daily dues. All right. So do your children, and hopefully you're still on, do your children have, do they have defined spaces? Like, do they each have their own bed? Do they share like a double bed, or do they have their own beds? Do they have like each of their clothes in different places, or is everything mixed together? Are their toys mixed together, or do they have separate toy things? Can you answer me that real quick? Is everything separate, or are things really mixed together, combined? They have a shared bed, clothes are separate, but toys are all together. Okay, or is it because they're similar in age? Is that why their toys are all together, or do they just play with the same types of things? Sorry, I wish I could pull you on and have you talk. Is there a way I can do that, actually? Okay. I don't know if you know what, Andrea? I'm going to click allow to talk. I'm going to ask you questions, okay? Are you able? I can hear you. Okay, awesome. Yay, I'm so glad. That's so much easier than having to type. Okay, so you have kids that share a bed, so they have to each, that's an issue because they have to each help each other with the bed, right? But their toys are all together. Is it because are they like the same gender and all their toys are similar? And is that why they're all stored together?
Yeah.
Okay.
One is 7 and one turns 5 in a couple of weeks. So,
Okay.
and girls. So yeah, they pretty much just play with everything the same. Although one's in school and one isn't. So right now,
Okay.
it's kind of tricky.
So let me ask you this. Are you anticipating the issue, or has the issue come up as you've introduced this?
We just started the daily news today.
Okay.
So already my 5-year-old is like, I don't want to do everything because her sister's at school, but I have also had in the past issues with them saying, I don't want to have to do it all myself, or, you know.
Okay. So this is what I would do. Do you have, well, actually, let me ask one more question. Do you have one that you already know is more diligent than the other? Like, do they have different personalities in the sense that you already can anticipate this one will be the one that feels like she's doing everything and this one will like not even care? Or, I mean, is there some kind of a scenario like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is what, remember that the daily dues ticket is not a checklist. So your child can say, Mom, this is what I've done. You making sure that they know, and I know they're little, 5 years old is little, and she's at home. She's the one that has to do some daily dues. You can say, you know what, your daily due, you guys' room is not, is something you have to share. So you only have to do your half of it. And so you as the mom can help her recognize what half the job is. That does not mean that she gets to choose every day what her half is and what the other person has to do. But what you're teaching them is to self-evaluate that they've contributed, okay?
Okay.
So, for instance, maybe she's the one who, maybe she does the bed, and you can talk to them together. You can talk to them together and say, do you think this is fair if, what's your 5-year-old's name?
Lindsay.
Well, that Lizzie makes the bed and does X, Y, Z, and then when you come home, you'll do this, or whatever, to where you come up with a solution where you've talked to them and shown them that they're both contributing, and that it's not a checklist. It's like Lizzie can be done without the room being perfectly clean because she's contributed to the room, right? If Lizzie's the one that's making all the mess, you can talk to her, because I mean, maybe she's the younger one that's there most of the time. And so the older one's going to come home and be like, I didn't even make this mess. Why is this my problem? So that's the opportunity when you can sit Lizzie down and say, hey, you know what? Do you think it's fair for, what's your older daughter's name? Riley to come home from school and pick up your toys? If Riley left something, have that opportunity to sit down and talk to them and point out the differences. Ask them how they want to solve it. Don't necessarily create a very black and white, you do this for them, but allow them to problem solve this together, and make sure that if they fight about it, that you bring them back to your board and be like, okay, guys, let's talk. This is where you can use that come back to your motto kind of thing and say, what if do you have a line in your motto about working together or pitching in or helping each other, or I don't know, being kind to one another, or what are those kinds of lines? And you stop the arguing by coming back to that and then posing the problem solving question back to them. I know they're little, but they are still so capable of coming up with solutions that they can live with. It just takes a mom management to just kind of pose that question to them. My suggestion, like I said, would be to help her identify, help the younger one identify when she gets to have free time while the other one's at school. And then even if it's, you can do X, Y, Z, and then when Riley comes home, you work together to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it could be, it's not about she can't do anything until Riley gets home and you do it together. Or maybe they just agree that, okay, you'll do this and I'll do this. Or it's just about their perception that it's not unfair. Really,
Okay.
it's not about it actually being fair. It's the perception of, I don't know if this is helping. I kind of just, I'm kind of just pulling this hypothetically out because it's not a specific targeted situation. It's just what you're anticipating. And so you just are going to have to help them recognize that it's everybody's contributing and that you're acknowledging that they're both contributing. That could be the first stage. Oh, I see, you know, having them tell you what they have done. Why do they think that they should be considered finished? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
That helps.
I hopefully and go ahead and try that out for a couple of days. And if something additional comes up or it doesn't seem to start flowing and they work together, then tell me a specific scenario and I can problem solve a specific thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Instead of just kind of that hypothetical, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yes,
I hope that helps other people too. All right, thanks. Okay. Susan, our oldest is constantly going into the neighbor's house to play video games, even though we tell him extremely regularly that it's not allowed. Most often the consequence is that he doesn't get dinner since he didn't come home when he was called and he missed dinner time. I feel like it's an appropriate consequence, but how should I go about being empathetic and not saying, well, if you haven't been inside, you would know it was dinner time. Is that did he agree to that consequence? Let's see. Susan, I'm going to unmute you real quick. Susan, are you there? Are you able to talk?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, awesome. So, specifically, how did you guys decide this consequence?
Well, he had gone over a number of times, and the first, handful, we'd go over to the house and say, it's time to come home, you need to come eat dinner. And then it turned into a really regular thing. So every time he would ask to go play, we'd say, yes, you can go play, but you have to stay in the front. You're not allowed to go inside. And then he just continued going in. And so, eventually we stopped going over to the door and we would just go out and call him, because that's kind of always been our policy, is if you can't hear us, then you're too far. And they know we're on the road, they have to stop, all that kind of thing. And he's 7, so he knows where the corner is, So we would call him, and every now and then he'd come out, but we'd remind him when he leaves, well, dinner is in 20 minutes. We're going to call when dinner's ready, so be somewhere you can hear us. And then it continued to get worse, and he would stop coming. And so we just started eating without him. And, we would say, we will eat without you if you don't come. So
I think the natural consequence to me doesn't feel like, well, yes, dinner, that does seem like a consequence in the sense that that he didn't hear you and that's why he didn't come for dinner. But I think a more effective consequence would be that you can't trust him to follow the guidelines, so it's not an option to go play.
Okay.
So, and that can be, when he asks me like, oh man, I really wish I could say yes, but do you remember the last 12 times I said yes? Whatever it is. You don't have to laugh, but the last 12 times I said yes, it's really discouraging because I can't count on you that you'll follow. You haven't shown me that I can count on you to follow those rules. And so I think there needs to be some more time for it go by that you are able to kind of think about whether you're actually old enough to recognize what the boundaries are. You know, it just might not be something you're good at yet. You need to have a little bit more time to really get that sunk in and deep, and you're mature enough to recognize that playing outside is the guideline or the boundary or whatever terminology you want to use. I'm just kind of I'm pulling it off the top of my head. You can think, premeditate this, it'll sound more eloquent. But since this is a common problem, you can kind of premeditate what you want to say. I know it's nice to be able to let them play with friends, because a lot of times that gets them out of your hair. And I know as a mom that it's so much easier to not be worried about your kids, you know, being bored or being sad that they're not able to play with friends and all that kind of stuff. But if it's causing a constant stream of contention between you and your child, then that is not something that is worth, you know, risking. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we have not had that eloquent of a conversation with him, because usually we're pretty frustrated by the time this all comes up. But whenever we try to tell him, you know, if he's had so many days in a row of ignoring the rule, we say, okay, well, you know, this weekend for the next, you know, 3 or 4 days, you don't get to play with your friends, or tomorrow, or, you know, whatever the circumstance is.
You don't need, I wouldn't tell it ahead of time. I mean, okay. I wouldn't warn him ahead of time. I would just talk about it preemptively. So this is a consequence, you talk about it preemptively. Say, you know, it feels like we've talked about this, we've gone over this a lot of times, it's been causing a problem, and I just want to make sure that you understand this. If you can't do XYZ, then when you come to ask me if you can go play, the answer is going to be no. So you're ahead of time telling him that's what has to happen. Because this is a safety issue for you, not being able to hear them. You know, they don't get really a lot of say in things that are safety issues, right? You don't want them in the, I mean, I'm not sure what all the reasons you don't want them in the house. If it's the video games you don't want them playing, but all of those are probably going to be safety issues to one degree or another, right? Whether it's you don't know where they are, you don't, you know, whatever it is, they don't really have a lot of say in that type of stuff. And you can tell them, you know, this is a matter of safety. It's this is how I feel as a parent, that I need to set these boundaries to help make sure that you're safe, and then I know I'm doing everything I can as your mom to keep you safe and healthy and whatever terminology you want to use, and just say, so if this is what you do, then this is going to be my answer. So don't tell him, you know, next week you're going to do this. No, just when it comes, just be like, oh man, I wish I could say yes, but remember, and just reflect and say, I know that's hard. I know it's disappointing. You know, you're welcome to come and help me. You know, you're welcome to come do this with me. You know, you're welcome to come help me make dinner. You're welcome to, you know, stay home and read a book or play Legos or whatever he does. I don't know. But say, you know, I wish you could go over to your friend's house, but darn it, that's just not something that I think you're ready for yet. I know that this concept, this guideline or this rule has been really hard for you to stick to so far, and I'm so sorry. I totally wish I could say yes, but you know, that's what I told you would happen. That's just what we have to do. And you're just very empathetic. You're just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And when they whine and cry and be upset, be like, oh, I totally get it. I feel your pain. I hate when something I want to do so bad is not an option for me because of my choices. Or just keep reiterating the actual concept or the reason it's happening without it being snarky. And if it gets out of control or belligerent or like, you know, that kind of wild, you know, where they overreact because they're very emotionally tied to whatever they want to do, then that's when I would go to the, you know what, oh no, it sounds like you've got to you've got to spend some time in your room. I don't have this kind of conversation. This is not, there's some terminology I teach in the Love and Logic class to do this. It's more than I can answer in a little question like this, because it's totally a principle that we learn. It's a, you don't engage in a, the principle is basically you don't engage in a fight with your kids. You love them too much to fight with them. So you will talk to them and we'll discuss it when they can calm down. And so give them the amount of time and space they need to in their room or whatever. And when they can come out when they're calm enough to talk. Or you'll talk about it when they're not yelling and, that type of thing. But there's some strategy to actually enforcing that. That I teach in that Love and Logic class, but it's really effective, and they do learn eventually that you're not going to be manipulated by emotion, that you have tons of emotion to share with them. That mommy empathy is like going to be your biggest tool for sure.
Okay. Yes, it does. So, sorry, one just hopefully quick side question to that.
Okay.
So then, say today he goes over, so tomorrow he asks, I say no. Wednesday, would you let him?
If you would talk to him first. If he went over today and doesn't do it, before he goes over today, you need to talk to him and say, hey, buddy, this has been a problem in the past. I'm telling you, I need you. This is the guideline again, and this is what's going to happen if you can't live by it. Do you think you can do that? And he's gonna be like, yes, I can, Mom, I will do it. And if he doesn't, then you don't say anything tomorrow when he asks. That's when you say, gosh, I wish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you have to have that conversation ahead of time. It has to be a calm, not a reactive conversation. The consequence has to be described before, in a non-emotional way, before it has the opportunity to be inflicted. Otherwise, it's a punishment. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a big proponent to taking food away from kids. If you were gonna say he couldn't have dinner, maybe you have an undesirable dinner that, like, a regular food that is like, okay, you can have oatmeal. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, we don't send him to bed hungry. We usually let him have like a peanut butter sandwich or something that's not quite as filling or yummy.
Yeah.
We don't send him totally hungry, but he doesn't get to enjoy the family time and the good food. And maybe
that's exactly what I would suggest too. Is you have a basic that's not necessarily his favorite, but you know what? If you don't come to dinner, you're always, there's always plenty of oatmeal you can have. Here's your oatmeal. To me, oatmeal was like my childhood nightmare. It was like eating sludge, but it's very hearty, so now I don't think it's as traumatic, but as a child, that would have been quite an incentive. But anyway, yeah, that type of thing. Sorry, I interrupted you. Did that answer your question?
Well, the next day after, he did what he wasn't supposed to, and then I said, I'm sorry, we just can't today. The following day, would you let him try again? Or, what kind of time frame?
I would use the evaluation every day, being like, I just don't know if you've reached, I don't know if one day is enough for you to really mature enough to talk about it as like being able to follow the rules is really something he's going to grow into. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So you're kind of talking like, I know you'll be able to do this eventually, but I just, from what you've shown me so far, I just don't think you're old enough. I don't think you quite understand the importance of why we tell you we have to do what you have to do. And I just don't know if one day is enough time for you to mature to that. Maybe we'll let it go for a week or so, and maybe you can come back and we can talk about whether you think you're ready for it. Just what you want to avoid is trying to not feel reactive. The other thing, I know this seems I know this seems like it might not be work, one night might not work, but I promise you this will help. And I want you to, because you're anticipating this, you've already labeled your kid as this is what he does. And I'm not saying that in a cute accusation way. It's just something that happens based on all of the evidence you have. You've already got this image of what he does, right, in your head. Because we've already said it out loud. I know that's what's happening, and that's okay. Because you have all this evidence, you know that's what happens. But you want to change you need to change your anticipation, and so that you can open up space for him to be better and surprise you. So, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about writing gremlins for other people that come up about other people. And, go back to that module and maybe on your end, take a minute to journal about this particular child in this scenario and think the good and write out the good things. And when you're having this conversation with him about what you think he's going to be able to do in the future, add some of those good things that you wrote out. Like add, like, I know you are blah, 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 blah. I noticed that you are, and say the nice things that you've written, because so that he knows it's not that he's a bad kid. It's not that you're disappointed in him. It's not that you think he's never going to be better at this. You're giving him hope. It's that hokey language, you know what I mean? You're giving him hope. You're empathizing with him. You're giving him hope. You're showing him that you see that he has potential to totally make different choices, that this is not his reality forever. This doesn't have to be a power struggle. You're right alongside him, waiting for him to learn and grow. That's what you want him to believe when you're going through this with him. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
So go back to that module and do that for him so that you have some of those tools in your back pocket, and you can kind of let go of some of those gremlins of already bracing yourself for what you think is going to happen. And that just opens up the space and the opportunity for him to be able to surprise you with how he reacts. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Dave, talk to you later. Okay, Felicia, what if we did the opposite, the consequence after the action? So is that already a punishment? Yes. If it's not something, but it's okay. There's nothing that you can't go back and say, okay, we did that wrong. Let's do it different. Yes. So this is what you do after the fact. If you've already done have that family rally where you're like, you know what? I want to talk about these ahead of time when we're calm and we all can have a good discussion. And I really want everybody to work together. I want everyone to feel supported. I want our family to feel love and cooperation. I don't want anyone to feel picked on. I don't want to be in a power struggle. I mean, literally, you would just say these things out loud, saying, this is why we're going to stop right now with what we've done, and we're going to start over. That's what I would do. I would say, we're going to start over. Let's talk about how to do it right. And this is what I want. I want your input. Do you have Felicia, I'm going to allow you to talk. I'm liking this, letting people be able to hear.
Hi.
Hi. So tell me the scenario. Tell me the scenario that you're already thinking.
Without naming one of two names?
Yeah.
Well, I have two sons. One of them deliberately disobeyed us and then lied about it. So, and it's a behavior that it seems like a character flaw. So that's what really concerns us. So, I mean, the consequences that he is getting now is not anything that is unexpected because it's happened before. So the similar consequences is being incurred. However, I added more to it. So I layered on the consequences besides the one he was expecting. So it's like a punishment in the sense that, we told him afterwards he wasn't expecting it. So, For example, I said, you're not going to the field trip.
Okay.
The end of the year school field trip. So because I did not say, if you did that, you're not going before he did that misbehavior. So that's what I layered on.
Well, that is a punishment, but you could, if you want to stick to that, then you could still lace it with a lot of mom empathy and kind of soften that blow, because you can be like, you know, I know you're disappointed, but the fact is I'm feeling a lot of distrust, and I want to be able to build that up with you. It's a lying issue with him, right? So you can be saying to him, you know, having that conversation where it's not, you want to take the opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with him about the consequence, where you're able to show empathy and give reason behind your reaction, because then you can kind of soften that it's not personal, it's not an attack. You might, even if you delivered it that way, even if you're like, fine, you're not going on, I mean, even if when you first told him you said it in the wrong kind of way, that's okay. You can backtrack by having a conversation with him, being like, you know, but what, buddy, I know this sucks. I don't know if you would use that, but whatever your version of that is. Sorry, I know I say that, and every time I put it in my mouth, I think, I know other people don't say that, but anyway, I do. I'm like, I know this sucks. I know you were looking forward to it, and I know it was not something you expected me to do. But quite frankly, I feel like I really needed to do it, because I do not want to support the idea that we can keep moving forward with this particular behavior. I've got to help you recognize that being honest and being able to communicate honestly with me and your dad is so important. And, you know, just having this kind of conversation, I'm just throwing things out. You would have to decide what you want to say, but you have this discussion with him where you have this heart to heart where you can kind of backtrack and show that it's not because you don't like him. It's not that you want him to hurt. It's when you dish a punishment out, that's what it feels like to the kids. That's what it says to their mind, is that you are so angry, you want to cause them pain. That's how they feel. That's how they hear it, you know.
Right.
And that even is how we feel sometimes. That's why we shouldn't make punishments up when we're mad. But that's what they hear, and to be able to go back and backtrack that is you have to give him reason. You have to give him, you know, letting him know that I had to take this away because I need you to know I'm serious. I need you to know how the level of concern that I have about this. This is a serious problem that we've got to help you through. Like showing him that you are willing to help with him, you're willing to stick by him, you're willing to support him in change. You know it's possible to change, but you're not willing to just ignore it. And that's a really good stance as a parent, to help him to know you're in their corner, you've got their back, but you're not going to let it slide. It's not optional for you. Care too much about him to just let it go. And so that's how I would backtrack this, instead of taking the consequence away, or the punishment away. And then I would also have a conversation with him about what is going to happen in the future. You know, what if the consequence is not severe enough, and I hate to say that, because I don't think severe punishment, consequence, whatever you want to call it, is necessarily what inspires people to make real changes. But if it's not incentivizing them to pay attention, to be willing to, then I would probably stop and problem solve this separately. I would definitely want to have a longer conversation with you about this particular thing, to kind of identify what are the things that lead up to it. What are, you know, are there situational things that make him feel like this is the only option? Is, you know, like, what is it that's contributing to it? That's what I would go back to. I don't think it's as straightforward, because it's something that happens over and over and over. I would totally want to ask a lot more questions before I specifically situationally problem solved it. But also, I don't think it's a lost cause. I think you would just, you know, have a discussion, try something, and then have a new discussion and try something else and tweak something. Just making sure he knows you're not giving up on him. This is not something that is ignored. It's not something that's going to destroy your family. It's not something you're going to let, you know, go by without making sure he knows that this is a big deal to you. Does that make sense? Like I think that will go a long way in, it'll go a long way in having him recognize that it's affecting more than just what he wants to do or what he doesn't want to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers, gives you something to go off of for a minute.
Yeah.
Let me know if you have
I did do that, so I just wanted to know if it's what to do after that. Yeah, we did have a heart-to-heart, and it was explained, you know, it was for his sake, and it's really for his sake long term. So, but it's really good to have the consequence before the behavior happens. So it helps us my husband and I, to be on the same page too.
For sure. And it really does allow you to give it with empathy instead of anger. And that way you won't ruin your relationship when you have to issue a consequence, even when he's resisting, you know, avoiding the behavior that causes it. So that's a good foundation for when they're ready to make changes. So that's good.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. So Susan, where do the chore ticket boxes going to be stored? Good question. If you don't have someplace right next to where your command station is, I would put them like in your kitchen on the counter or something, because I would keep these, I personally kept them in my kitchen on a shelf, because we would lay them out on the island when I passed them out. So that's, I think, is a good place. But or you can keep them next to the command station, just on a desk or a table or something like that. But it's the kids, what you'll do is you'll lay them out to be chosen, and we'll go over this next week. So wherever it is you would be laying them out, like your kitchen table or your island or something like that, that's where I would store them by where you're going to actually use them. So it's up to you. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, you guys, good luck this week. Check in on the Facebook group, and I am so looking forward to our mentoring session next week when it all comes full circle and we've closed everything up. Like I said, I don't know that we'll get to being able to talk about the growing with your family next week. I think that we'll aim to do that, and if it goes too long, then I will do it as a bonus training, and I'll let you know the next week when that will happen. All right, talk to you guys later.